Greetings everyone, welcome to Just Advanced, and this is the second match of the playoffs between Wesley So and Praggnanandhaa with the black pieces. Here, all Prague needs is a draw to win the Sinquefield Cup. He doesn't have to push anything, he doesn't have to do anything. But with that mindset, you also comes a point where if you're not pushing for it, you might not even get that draw. You might just lose the game. So Prague has to be careful. So with the white pieces, let's see what Wesley has in store for him. We have e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, and bishop to c4. We go into the Italian game, bishop to c5, c3, but now just comes knight to f6, d3, and a6. This is the almost the same kind of setup that Prague had against Fabi, but against bishop to g5 now, bishop to a7, knight bd2, and just d6. We have a4 trying to just go all the way. We have knight to e7, but now just bishop captures, g captures, castles, and now we have knight to g6. Looks like a weird setup, but it's definitely something that Prague has definitely prepared, and he's trying to get that win here in this position. d4, now immediately going for this central thrust, h5, rook to e1, and now just h4. So rook is very nicely aligned. You have pushed the pawn all the way. Knight can somewhere along the line jump, and most likely what you're most worried about is this development of this bishop, because you have to get the queen into the game. Maybe even if castling queenside is possible, that would be spectacular, but even you don't have to worry about that very much, because even if you're able to artificially castle, even that's working here. Knight to f1 was played, bishop to e6 now, asking for a bishop trade. Bishop captures, f captures, but now just queen to b3. And now that is the threat, so you have to be careful. King to d7 was played, now trying to artificially castle and get the queen into the game, and it's looking very, very beautiful. But again, Wesley is, I mean, an amazing defender, and most of it all, he doesn't. He's with the shorter time format, he's very, very good, and uh, doesn't actually blunder like other players. We have h3, and now we have queen to e7, knight to e3, now just king to c8, and now just going for this rook a to d1. We have knight to f4. Now again, the position is looking amazing, but how do you get the rook into the game? You were supposed to do that the last move, but now you went back, and now there is no actual way to get the rook into the game. King to h2 was played, but now just comes queen to g7, and already there are some made threats, and you have to be very, very careful. Rook can jump into the game, you can double up, and the game is looking very, very nice. Knight to g1 was played here in this position, but now you have to be very, very careful. How do you even continue with black? I told you that rook is, you're like just playing like you're a rook down, and that's not the way to play chess. So maybe even the move like c6, I think you would have some compensation. After knight to f3, you play now just king to c7, and after rook to g1, you play rook a to g8. So there would be a lot of pressure against that g2 pawn, but again, still there is no way to actually break through in this position. So here, instead of Prague pushing mindlessly in this position, he's going to have to be very, very careful. Knight to g1 was played in this position, just still keeping an eye on everything. There is nothing. Even if you go here, you cannot just sack the queen, so obviously there is nothing in this position. But here, rook to g8 was tried, but now just comes knight to e2, and here king to d7, again just trying to get the rook into the game, but comes knight captures on f4. We have e captures, knight to g4 now, and a move like f3 is just so tempting in this position, because you have to understand you cannot push this. If you push this, knight captures, pawn captures, and somewhere along the line that knight is going to jump here, sacrificing itself, because here the rook file is going to open. There are some checks in this position. This is looking very, very dangerous, so you have to be very, very careful. There are a lot of weaknesses in the position, and it's going to be very much difficult in this position to hold. So a move like rook a to b8 seems like very, very passive, I understand, but this is the only move that works in this position, because here after e5, now we play f captures, and now we don't capture back, we just wait in this position for them to capture. And now you have to understand there are some ideas of capturing that pawn with a check, and most likely you're getting mated here, so you have to be very, very careful. But this was the best way to go for Prague in this position. But after knight to g4, f3 was played, but f3 is pushing it a bit too much in this position, and you don't want to do that. Only a draw is fine in this position. But here we have rook to e3, now f captures, but just this rook to f3, you don't have to worry about that pawn that much. But now comes rook a to f8, finally getting the rook into the game, but it's a bit too late, because now comes queen captures on b7. Now there are some checks in this position. Queen has already infiltrated, your bishop is hanging. How do you play this position? Prague goes all the way. He goes f5 in this position, just trying to go for that knight. But unfortunately, there is a very nice resource in this position. So I'm going to ask you to pause the video, try and find out the only winning move in this position for Wesley, while I give you a couple of seconds. So congratulations to everyone who's able to find this move. The move is e captures, and yes, that's right, because here after e captures, this is the continuation that you had to find, which is this knight to e5 check. Yes, sacrificing the knight for this file to open up, and there is nothing you can do. Let's say you go d captures, king to e8, but now it's mate in 4, queen to c6, king to e7, rook to d7, king moves, rook captures the queen, king to d8, and queen to d7 would be checkmate. So you cannot capture the knight. So here, after knight to d5, king to d8 was played, but unfortunately even this doesn't work. King to g1 was played, just a nice prophylactic move. I mean, there is nothing in the position, so you don't have to worry about it that much, and you can play all the attacks along the next move. You still cannot capture because of the same mating net. And now bishop to b6, now just getting the bishop out of the way, but just a5. And now we have bishop caps on a5, but just knight to c6 check, king moves, and you can just happily pick up the bishop. Knight caps on a5, queen to e7, but now just comes this check, king moves, and now just grabbing that with check as well. King to d7, queen to b5 check, king to c8, and after rook to e3, now just finally going for this queen to g5. And here queen to a6 check was played, but after king to d7, rook d to e1, and there is no way you're gonna survive this. Queen is slicing all the way here. There are subjects here. I mean, this is just you're just getting mated. And Prague, realizing this on just move 38, Prague resigned the game, and Wesley So was actually able to level the score. Now, in the next match against Fabi, if Fabi wins, we go into the Armageddon. But if Fabi loses, then Wesley So wins this game. Or even if Fabi draws, Wesley So wins the entire Sinquefield Cup, and that too, that he would have done in absolute style. I mean, the way he played this with 91% accuracy, and Prague was able to play this with just 80% accuracy. You have to understand, in blitz, I mean, Fabi is an absolute beast, and that just shows.